Nice one. All right, gentlemen, we are live. What's going on? Today is Monday, October 27th, 2025. Firstly, forgive the bad quality video. I wanted to go landscape today. It just felt right. Getting over a cold, feeling good. What if, what if everything society told you about flirting was a lie? It's a bold question, huh? Well, this is the question we're going to be going over in this live stream. So, the objectives for the live stream, I've got them written over to the left here. So, firstly, I'm going to explain cold approach fully, thoroughly. All right. Then I'm going to lower the barrier to entry for those of you who want to get started. Next, I'll normalize flirting publicly. And then lastly, I will tell you why you shouldn't wait. Why you shouldn't wait to get started. Why everybody waits to get started and why you shouldn't wait to get started. Okay, firstly, audio, making sure the audio is good. Okay, I think we're good. So, getting over a cold, I'm going to sound a bit odd today. So be it. So, firstly, let's discuss flirting. All right. So, for the first objective, oh, I should mention what inspired this stream was I was listening to an earlier stream that I made a year and a half ago or so. It was a long time ago. I'll link it in the description. It's called We Are Creating Version 1 of Cold Approach. I found it to be quite a good stream actually, and so still applicable. But this will be a more modern spin off of that stream, which I think is still valuable. And then, firstly, even taking another step back, if you're tuning in for the first time, you don't know who the fuck this guy is speaking to you in front of the camera here in this poorly lit, very dim room here, then my name is Ephraim. I'm 25 years old. I'm an American. I'm living in Europe right now. I will be back in the United States for some coaching next month. But what I do and why I'm able to talk on topics like this is I help men, typically introverted guys, go from a place in life where they're dissatisfied with their dating life. They're usually swiping on apps and they're usually not getting anything as far as a return. They're usually not getting the dates, they're not getting the happy endings, and they're just normal fucking guys. And they're looking around and everything else looks in order but their dating life. And they're wondering why that's the case. I help these men go from this place to a place where they're satisfied with their dating life. They're able to get dates whenever they want. And I help them do this in a very short period of time, 72 hours or less. All right. So that's all I do. And I created and refined a playbook. I call it my quiet confidence playbook. This is what I use and this is what I teach to my clients that I coach privately, one on one, around the world, different continents and different countries. So, not to go on for too long here, but if you would like my help through this delicate area of life, then to start off, you can book a free application call by clicking the link in the description below so that we can firstly see if we're a good fit to work together. Before I take your money, before I give you my offer, let's see if we're a good fit for coaching together. All right. So let's get into the topic. Oh, one more thing. If you are wondering why I have authority to speak on topics such as this, I invite you, rather than listening to me, I invite you to go browse my videos tab where you can see me doing the things that I'm talking about on camera rather than just talking about them because most people just talk about them. I do them. So you can see that in the videos tab. A lot of infields, we call them infields. Yeah. So me out in the field walking over to women in a bold way in public with everybody watching me, including a big fat camera lens so that you can see into it as well. You can hear it as well. And to take it a step further, I've also got students of mine that I've coached. I've got video footage and audio footage of them during the coaching and after the coaching, walking over to women and lining themselves up with dates. All right. So this is why I have authority on these topics. And that's my proof. All right. So click over if you'd like proof. So let's get into the fucking topic now. We've been yapping. All right. So firstly, what is flirting? Let's break this down. Before we define cold approach, first let's just define flirting in general, which it's essentially synonymous. Yeah. So flirting is just guy and girl we have sexual impulses, desires, romantic, if you want to use a euphemism, yeah, make it less blunt. We're romantic to some capacity. Just like every fucking creature on earth, we're put here and we have biological urges to procreate. And flirting is a medium to do that. Yeah, it's a socially acceptable medium to send signals to each other that essentially we want to fuck, or to put it nicer, if that helps the audience, we want to engage in romantic activities. The cuddling, the dates, and the happy endings and everything that comes along with it. Yeah. Now, cold approach is no different. It's just flirting with a bit of structure. And you'll find in this live stream, I'll actually break a lot of the structure down, and that's what I tend to do. But as I know, because I've coached a lot of clients who are just like me, very analytical guys, we like structure. Structure allows us to have some sort of a formula to follow so that we're not always taking shots in the dark. And so I'll help you there as well. But to put it very simply, what I wrote here, what is flirting? Guy like girl, girl like guy. That's it. Simple as that. Yeah, it is a way to communicate our interest to the opposite sex or the same sex. 2025, I don't judge. All right. Now, look, when we're talking specifically about cold approach, and we're going to go pretty deep into the definition of cold approach, but cold approach is no different. All right. It is just a medium to express your desire towards the girl in a somewhat structured way, so that you're not always having to come up with something new to say every time. Instead, you've got at least a couple of things in your mind where you go, all right, I'll just say this blanket statement across approaches or across interactions, so that I don't always have to come up with something new. Yeah. Now, where did this start? So let's go back to the very beginning, right? So when we're talking about flirting, who fucking knows? This started when we started procreating in 100 BC. I don't know. But when it comes to approach, officially, officially, it started sometime in the early 2000s. You probably, if you're around this space, you probably have heard of or soon will hear of this London day game model by this guy, RIP, named Tom Terrero. Yeah. So this person went aggressive when it comes to structure. And so he found a way to package this concept of flirting and deliver it to men who, like myself and like most of my audience and most of my clients, are very analytical thinkers who have trouble grasping more abstract concepts like vibe and energy. And he found a way to like systematize it and package it into some steps and almost routines in order to teach men how to do what he was able to do on camera. All right. And early adopters of this model, um, they they took this concept of structure far too seriously. All right. Now, this is where it started. And I didn't learn the London day game model. In fact, I make fun of it all the time. I still don't even know what it is or what it entails. I just know it. There's shit like vibe stack, pull close, yada yada yada, and all these terms and shit, right? I've never opened the almanac of the day game London day game model. I've never read through it. I don't know what it entails, but I'm sure I've learned plenty of it just indirectly without knowing that I was learning it. Now, what I learned was a variation of this, kind of like a branch of this. And there was no true name to it when I learned it. I learned it from a guy named Christian. All right. Guy is linked all over my channel if you want to check him out. Great guy. Taught me everything I know. And I still work closely with him to this day, just now more so in a business content context. But this is back in April of 2023. I learned, um, yeah, we didn't really have a name for it. We just called it cold approach or day game. And I say it was a variation of the London day game model because rather than Christian teaching me about a vibe, stack, pull, close, open, close, and all of these terms and shit, instead of telling me any of this stuff, he simplified it to open, close, and what happened in between was just authenticity. And this is where the model falls quite short because it leads guys to believe that the steps in the framework is what the steps are what is attracting the girl to them, when in reality it's not the case. It's the person who's going about it and how they're delivering themselves. And it doesn't really matter about any steps at all. And this probably, we're going all over the place, but don't worry, I'll tie all of this together. We've got quite a bit to talk about in this stream. Remember the objectives here. So we're still on the first objective, which is just explaining cold approach and defining it fully. So what I learned, I'm grateful that I didn't learn about all this structured planned stuff. And instead, I just learned how to walk over and engage with the girl that I liked. And then on the back end of that, I learned that if she was also interested in me, then I learned how to ask for her number and to ask her out on a date. And in between that, I didn't really have anything to learn because I already knew how to have conversations with people, how to speak to people, which is a prerequisite when you're trying to get into this space. And the thing is, the old days, the early 2000 days with the London day gamers, it was a lot of guys who were starting off way below the threshold of the guys that I help, and the guys that potentially, or the guys that essentially I think are competent enough to learn the skill set at least quickly, as quickly as I can teach it. Because if a guy doesn't know how to speak to people, that's when he starts trying to rely on methods and tactics and rungs in this day game model. And that's when it becomes problematic because it becomes a system, and maybe system's not the right word, but a routine more accurately. It becomes a routine where they're listening for certain triggers or they're watching for certain triggers in her behavior or the environment, and then they're trying to like respond as if it's a program, as if they've coded a parameter, yeah, to spit out a predictable output. But we're talking about humans right now, and we're very unpredictable people. So the reason I'm getting into all this so deeply is I didn't learn this structured stuff. I just learned how to walk over to somebody that I liked, introduce myself, have a very regular conversation, and then if there was mutual interest, how to take that conversation further, for example, a date. And through doing this, that sequence of steps that I've just described to you and nothing more, yeah, not focusing on a vibe stack pull or any of, or a neg or any of these other steps in a model, I was able to generate loads and loads and loads and loads of dates and fun experiences in different countries and different continents. And then to take things a step further, I was able to replicate these experiences and these dates for my students simply by teaching them the exact structure that I learned, but I put my own spin on and refined. All right. So, to reiterate, where it started was it was this structured kind of routine, odd system that guys were using and thinking that they were getting somewhere. When I learned it, it had already grown to a point where, or developed to a point where it was no longer about like, memorize this, Ephraim. Okay, memorize this, say this. If she says this, you say this. Instead, we threw all that shit out the window and we said, you're already a solid guy. Now just walk over, say this, and then if it goes well, continue chatting. And that's it. Simple as that. Yeah. And that's what you see now. If you go and you watch my infields, guys will think that's smooth or I look smooth. The reality is I didn't start here, right? If you, especially if you go and watch my older stuff, oh, I cringe just talking about it and referring to it, but I'm keeping it up there so that you can watch it, because the true growth that's happening here, and pretty much what an immersion is or what a coaching experience is for my clients. A lot of guys think it's like memorizing routines or learning how to say things the right way, but they quickly find out the actual experience is learning how to get over their fear, because that's the actual hurdle here. And I think most guys watching can relate to this. Oh, we got 0 viewers, so I can relate to this. The actual hurdle is not like where to go in the conversation or what to do or what to say. It's fucking getting yourself over into the conversation in the first place. That's what scares most guys. Yeah. So again, when I learned it, it had already developed to a point where it was just about being authentic, and we were able to remove a lot of the structure. Now, where it's going, where I see it headed, is to a place that has even less structure. So right now, the way that I teach this skill set is a couple of days, right? A few days, one guy at a time, and that sounds fruity. I bring one client at a time, and I teach them this skill by firing away approaches again and again and again and again, and essentially eradicating that fear that they have of walking over. And I do have some structures in play, but it's a lot less than even when I learned. And also, the way that I encourage it to be used in the long term has even less structure than the way it was encouraged for me to use it and the way I still use it from time to time. All right. So, this is what cold approach is. Yeah. So, all of that is a very convoluted way to say it's a structure put in place to teach guys who are bad at flirting how to flirt. And what is flirting? Me man, you woman, me like you. Simple as that. Different variations of that. All right. And you can sound smoother with it. You can sound more caveman like with it. Different people, different environments. Yeah, different types. Doesn't matter. Point is, that's essentially all this is. So I've figured out a way to package that concept into a product, which is this YouTube channel. All right. Now, so the here, I'll take a sip of water. We'll go into the second objective. So hopefully that clears up what cold approach is. A means of communicating who you are to the girl that doesn't know who you are yet. Seeing if there's mutual interest. Simple as that. All right. So lower the barrier to entry. All right. So the barrier to entry to this skill set, firstly, when people first come across the content, and I'll just use myself for as an example, because I know most guys relate. The first things that went through my head when I came across cold approach for the first time was, is this even real? So I remember I came across infields and I was clicking through infields, and really I couldn't believe my eyes because at first, as far as the position I was in back in 2023, just 2.5 years ago, the position I was in when I was watching these infields for the first time was, okay, the internet's big now. There's a lot of prank channels out these days. So what's likely is this is another kind of like a prank concept, right? And then I continued watching and I noticed, okay, no, he's not pranking these people, right? He's just genuinely flirting with them. So then my brain jumped to like, okay, but these are probably like paid actresses, right? There's no way people would actually respond well to this. Like, isn't it against the law to walk over to strangers? Or at the very least, isn't it like punishable? Won't the general public like shout at you and laugh and spit at you and shit? Like these were my thoughts. Maybe subconscious, but to some extent, I just thought it just wouldn't compute when I came across it. I was like, it doesn't make sense. How is this guy doing this? So that's the first barrier to entry. Now, the way that I lower this barrier for guys is I put out a lot of content that's uncut. So the reason for the uncut is to show people, firstly, to show them what it realistically looks like when you build this skill set and then you go out and you apply it. Sometimes it goes your way and sometimes it doesn't. So a lot, part of the reason why I was wondering, is this content, right? Before I got into the space, I was wondering, is this real or is it fake? Part of it was because the guys that I was watching when I came across this space, they only posted their highlight reels. So they almost like were making themselves seem like movie star main characters, James Bond types, where they walk over to one girl, one video, one girl, one approach, one date, amazing experience. Wow, they're so cool. And I would watch it and I would go, okay, this makes me think this is fake content. Like this must be an actress because it was only positive, 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 positive. And I was like, yeah, but what's the catch? Like, what happens if she's married? Yeah, why don't they show those examples? And so this is the big reason why I make a lot of my content uncut so that you can see me walk over to girls and then they tell me I'm married, or they tell me I'm in a rush, or they tell me I'm not interested, so that you are aware that this is just how this goes. And then you also see in that mix of different reactions that I get, you also see the reactions that I get that are really well or really good, where the girls go, thank you so much. Wow, nobody ever comes up to me these days, blah, 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 blah. And then it turns into a great conversation. And then those are like the highlight reels that you see on my channel, right? So taking it a step further then, right? That's the first barrier to entry is I give you my demonstrations uncut, a lot of them at least, so that you can see what this looks like realistically. Now, the second barrier to entry, and this one's probably the biggest, right? Most of us can get over that first block of like, is this real or is this fake? Most of us can go, okay, I get it. This guy, this makes sense. It's irrefutable at this point. But then the next barrier is, okay, but the problem is I don't want to, like, I want to know how to do what this guy's doing, but I don't want to walk over to this girl and then that girl and then the next girl over and over and over again and spend all of my Saturdays doing that. The PUA fallacy. All right. So, first things first, there was a point in time, right? This is kind of the London day game model. All this stuff is getting intertwined now, where that was the status quo when it came to cold approach, where guys would learn this skill set and then they would get together on like Reddit forums, Reddit wing forums, and they would meet up at the local mall and they would all be wearing their signature trench coat and dress shoes and blue jeans, and they'd have their slick back hair, and then they would all walk around the malls together and they would apply the same London day game model type framework. Yeah, and you can replace mall with street corner with busy strip of bars and restaurants or whatever, and they would just do this shit everywhere and they would spam it, right? So the next barrier to entry is guys don't want to be associated with that, and I get it. I don't either. In fact, this is why I try to separate myself from that entire version of this skill. I try to separate myself because remember, when we distill this down, this isn't like learning how to flirt with a girl in public and line up a date for yourself in public without using dating apps does not automatically correlate to getting a slick back haircut, putting on a trench coat and dress shoes, and going to a mall to approach girls, right? Those aren't the same thing. Yeah, that's just one group's way of using the skill set. Yeah, that's the old school Londoners' way of using the skill set. I think it's fucking hilarious. Yeah, I'm not downplaying it. They paved the way, and it was probably effective at one point, but it's also outdated. It's also 2025. It's like they were doing that shit. I was 12 years old. I was still running miles in PE in seventh grade when they were applying that framework that guys are still trying to teach these days. No, to learn how to walk over to a girl in public does not mean having to now identify as a pickup artist. Does not mean that you now have to like become embody this certain persona. Yeah, the mystery method esque persona. You don't know. Recognize those are completely separate. Those guys just associate themselves with this skill set of approach. That doesn't mean that they are the same as approach. All right. Completely different. My friends and I go about things a completely different way. Just to give you like a little window into what this looks like for me and my friends, not just even my clients, but just my friends, right? I was in Belgrade, Serbia earlier this year, and I met up with a friend named Joseph in Balthus. And a typical day for us when we weren't busy ourselves with work and we were able to meet up, a typical day for us looks like what it was like a Tuesday around 3 p.m. We would meet up at the busy Republic Square area of Belgrade, and we'd usually meet up at a cafe, and we'd all drink our lattes. We'd spend about 30 minutes just chatting shit, having a good time, talking about the future, talking about anything, talking about sports, right? Just enjoying each other's company. And then we would either have a destination in mind, like, oh, let's go check out this area of Serbia together we've never been to, or we would just want to go for a walk because it was a nice day. And as we walked through the busy streets of Belgrade and we were joking around, having a good time, laughing with each other, inevitably we would see cute girls that we liked. And usually it looked like one of us going, oh, dibs, no, she's mine. I called it. And then one of us would run over, yeah, with a big grin on our face, get in front of the girl. And sometimes they liked us, sometimes they didn't. And when they did, we'd be flirting away. Yeah. And then you pan the camera right and you see Balthus doing the exact same thing, or Balthus and Joseph chatting to two different girls. And there was no, the best part, Joseph, bald guy, right? He's got a bald guy baseball cap, tank top, shorts, trainers. Me, Ephraim, 25-year-old American, backwards baseball cap, literally this exact shirt, pair of shorts and socks or shoes with no socks on. Both this different, similar outfit, right? It's super hot out in Belgrade. Like no trench coat, right? No dress shoes. You don't have to box yourself in to a certain kind of person in order to just learn how to openly and publicly flirt with the girls that you like, if that makes sense. So again, the part of the objective that we're on right now is lowering the barrier to entry, because I'm aware that a lot of guys come across, let's say, my channel as an example, and the reason why they don't take further action, it's not because they don't want to learn how to do this, and it's not because they think it's fake. The actual reason why they don't take action and learn this, or at least reach out for help to learn this, is because they don't want to be associated with old school 2008 weirdos that all have the same haircut, that all have the same dress style, and that all say the exact same shit. They don't want to be looped into that. Neither do I. Neither do any of my friends, and neither do any of my clients. Yeah, we're just regular guys with regular lives. Yeah, I got a client that's a drummer. I got a client that is has a business and also is a massage therapist as well. Right, myself, I'm outdoorsy. When I'm back in San Francisco, I play pickup basketball with my friends. I suck at it, and I play spike ball, and I throw the football around, and I go to barbecues and bonfires and shit. I live a regular life, right? But it just so happens that when I am in front of a girl that I see and I think she's hot, and we're in public, let's say we're on the sidewalk, let's say I got my friends with me or I'm alone, yeah, and it's broad day, it's 12 p.m. on a Saturday, it just so happens that I'm equipped with the skills to actually do something, rather than just letting her walk past like 99.999% of guys, right? So there's no like, okay, set aside 3 hours this Saturday, let me drive to a mall, let me slick my hair back, let me put on the trench coat. Don't need to do any of that shit. All right, so what I wrote here is demonstration versus application. So recognize that when you see my infields, all that is demonstration, right? So this is not necessarily how you need to use the skill set. The only purpose of an infield is demonstration. It's to show you what I can do on camera in a condensed period of time. Because I know that you and me and everybody else born in the last 40 years, our attention spans are like the goldfish size, right? Goldfish size attention spans. So I can't make a 20, what would be realistic? A 10-hour video of my actual day, 10-hour long video of me waking up, going to the coffee shop, doing a couple approaches on the way there. Yeah, drinking my latte, doing some editing, walking over to a deli to get my lunch, doing some approaches on the way there. That's more realistic. Yeah, that's what my clients are doing after they learn the skill set from me, rather than like sectioning off hours at a time to go and approach. Just so you know, both ways are completely valid. But this is, again, seeing as though we're on the lower the barrier to entry objective here, some guys' hangups is that they don't want to have to like go to a place, set aside some time, and approach for an hour, 2, 3 hours, whatever, right? And then also be looped in with this whole PUA type stuff. So just so you know, my life doesn't look like that. My clients' lives don't look like that. And yours certainly does not need to look like that either. So, a big reason why people are um, put off on approach in general is this whole like societal view, right? And they're worried, what will society think of me? What will my peers or my coworkers or my friends or my family think if they find out that I set aside 2 hours on a Saturday to simply to walk over to girls that I see in public? Well, there's two solid answers to that question. The first is you don't have to use the skill set that way. And the second is you absolutely can use the skill set that way, and both are just as valid. All right. So in the first scenario, what we're describing is something closer to what I would do when I was back home in San Francisco. Yeah. So I would, let's say this is the summertime, right? I would clock out of my job. I mean, let's use the example of when I was working from home. This is even better. Yes, I'd wake up. I'd try to get the gym in before work. Sometimes I woke up early enough. So I'd skate over to the gym. I had this little electric skateboard, and it was like 8 a.m. Sometimes there were girls, hot girls, San Francisco, right? Sun's coming out. Sometimes hot girls out that early on their way somewhere, Pilates class, whatever. And I would get approaches in that early. Most of the time, not. Right. Then I'd be on my way back to the gym. Now it's around 9:30 a.m. All right. More likely it'll be girls on their way to work, and I'll do an approach here and there. Oh, there's a girl. She's cute. What, she looks like she's a nurse. I go skate over. Hi, you look amazing. Yeah, I got to go clock in. Actually, I'm about to be late, but you're hot. Hey, what's going on? And then either she likes me or she doesn't. If she likes me, set up a date. Then I skate home to clock into work. Right. Similar scenario during my lunch break. I had a little deli, a couple of restaurant spots actually outside. I'm a lousy cook, so I would go out, get takeout, and I would do approaches, right, on my lunch break just because I wouldn't have the intention of doing them, right? I would want a sandwich. I'm Ephraim hungry. I would go out, I'd order my sandwich, and as I'm walking to the deli to get my sandwich, there's a hot girl again. Let me go say hello. So, like, what I'm trying to share with you is this is the way that I teach and demonstrate the skill set is not the only way that you can apply the skill set. So to lower the barrier to entry for a lot of guys, because a lot of guys wish that they can do what I've just described to you, but they don't understand that in order to get to the point where you can do what I've just described to you, you need a condensed, concentrated period of time where you're firing away. And the reason that you're doing this is to eradicate the fear that you have. That is the reason why you're watching content rather than doing what I'm saying in the first place. Right? Because if it wasn't down to fear, then everybody would just do that. Guys wouldn't need to watch content. They would just go, "Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, the Tinder's not working for me. Let me just go do what this guy's talking about." And they would go outside and they would emulate exactly what I've just said, but it's impossible. It's impossible to just do it because just like every other skill set, firstly, everything that I'm describing here, it sounds easy in practice, but you recognize very quickly that all of it are little skills that you need to develop. The first and most imposing one is climbing over your fear, the fear that's stopping you from doing it in the first place. Yeah. And we're going everywhere. I haven't live streamed in a couple of weeks. I expected it to be all over the place. So this is great. But if if the dots are starting to connect, and rather than trying to piece together all of my thoughts and figure out how these thoughts convert into what I can do on camera in my infields yourself, rather than trying to do that process yourself, if you want me to just expedite this for you and teach this to you in person, then the link is in the description below. All right, this is what I do. I left behind a career in software engineering and tech sales so I can help men through this delicate area of life. Yeah. So again, what I've described, right? Being able to just go outside, do your daily tasks, and then pull the trigger. When you see the girl you like, just walk over. Just get over your fear then and there and walk over. That sounds very cool. The part that doesn't sound cool is like an infield, for example. When you see me walk over to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different girls in like the span of 17, 18 minutes. That part doesn't look cool because inevitably you see me get a bunch of rejections, a couple good conversations, and sometimes a couple of dates lined up, sometimes no dates lined up, right? And that doesn't look quite as cool as the suave guy just riding around town on his electric board and like walking over to one girl, oh hey, how's it going? And then walking over to another, let's say 3 hours later when I'm back outside during my lunch break. That sounds a lot cooler, doesn't it? And then, of course, the one and dones, right? When you see me do an intro and then walk over to the first girl of the day, and then she ends up cracking open, loving the conversation, setting up a date with me. That also looks super cool on camera, right? But once again, you have to look past the highlights, right? Which is what a lot of content creators show you solely is just the highlights. But unfortunately, that's not reality. So to tie this together, since we are pretty all over the place here, to lower the barrier to entry, firstly, recognize that you do not need to become a certain type of person to simply learn how to cold approach. And remember, when we simplified cold approach at its definition, it was just learning how to flirt with girls. That's it. Just learning how to chat to the girl that you like. Oh, she's hot. I like that. I like her. Let's go say hi. Maybe she likes me back. She does? Sick. Let's go on a date. Cocktails? You like cocktails? Let's go. That's it. That's it. All right. Again, very simple. Our smooth brains understand. But then you are actually faced with the situation when you see the girl and you remember back to this live stream where Ephraim was going, da, 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 men like girl. And you're going, okay, but why are my feet glued to the ground though? Why can't I actually like act on this impulse and walk over? Welcome to the fucking club. Yeah, welcome to the reason why my business exists. Welcome to the reason why I left behind a six-figure remote tech career. It's because I recognized how big of an issue this is, how big of a hurdle this is. Yeah, it's not as simple as like watch content, go and apply content, is it? So again, to lower the barrier to entry, remember, demonstration is different than application. All right. So when you watch my infields, this isn't my daily life. I don't just wake up, click record, and go, all right, let's go approach 20 girls today. Nah, this is just for demonstration. This is just to capture my skill set in a 10-20 minute video so that I was gonna say your goldfish attention span can consume it. Yeah, because I can't possibly capture a full day of what this would actually look like when I'm not trying. Yeah, when I'm just waking up, going about my daily life, and then chatting to the girls that I see that I pass by that I like. All right. But this is different than how you can actually apply it and how you might prefer to. All right. So integration is the phrase that I've been missing. That's what I should have been using. All right. So you can integrate this skill set into your lifestyle, meaning you no longer have to go out for sessions anymore, even though I think it's a very effective way of doing things, but you no longer have to. Yeah. All right. So the next objective is to normalize flirting publicly. We got 0 viewers. This is so good. We're at the pinnacle, are we? This is great. I've never sub count's never been higher. 0 viewers. You gotta love it. I'm so often humbled, man. This is just too good. All right, so look, normalize flirting publicly. So why are we ashamed in the first place? Well, this part's pretty easy if you think about it. Religion, culture, society. So religion, I'm not religious, but I know a lot of religions look down on flirting, especially the more radical religions. There's entire countries where public flirting is outlawed. So yeah, no shit, this would be a little dicey, especially depending on where you live or where you've been or where you were raised. But culture and religion, those two tied together. I mean, society, the three of them tied together, really. Um, that answers the question of why are we ashamed? It's because when we're growing up, if you're super devout Christian or Catholic or whatever, then your parents are Mormon, even worse. Then your parents told you, eyes straight, Timmy. Do not look at the girl. Yeah, don't worry about what those are. Right? She's wearing a crop top with half her tits showing. Don't worry about that, Timmy. Eyes straight. Worry about geometry, right? So you're ashamed into like ignoring that. Culture, society, right? Your teachers and your principals told you to focus on school, to not worry about girls. Your classmates ridiculed you when you had a crush. Ha ha, Ephraim, you like who? Ew, that's gross, Ephraim. And so it's like, it makes sense why we're ashamed initially of flirting, specifically publicly, right? It's why guys have no problem flirting virtually because there are no repercussions, because they can just delete their profile at the snap of a finger and hopefully nobody took any screenshots, right? It's because they're not putting anything on the line here. And to further normalize flirting publicly, how else would people meet, right? So let's just talk before the internet. It's like, how else would you meet aside from arranged marriages? How else are you going to meet the love of your life? You've got to speak to her to some capacity. It just so happens that other environments are more socially acceptable. That's all. The bars and the clubs, they're more socially acceptable because the girls and the guys that go out to those, typically they want something to happen. Yeah, why else are they going out? Why else is she wearing her hot, tight, short miniskirt? Why else is he putting on his cologne, looking his best? Yeah, wearing his nice flashy watch. Why else is she putting on the pumps and the heels? It's because they just want something to happen, right? So these environments that are more socially acceptable, like let's say a bar or a nightclub, nobody blinks an eye when people get drunk and sloppily flirt there. But the issue is, especially myself and the clients that I work with, is we just don't like being in those environments. So if you relate to this, I just don't like being in sloppy environments. I don't like being in loud environments. You already hear me right now. I'm struggling. It's an empty bedroom, and you can barely hear me. It's like I'm a soft spoken guy. I don't like to be loud, and so when I pull up to a bar or a nightclub, and I hear "Call Me Maybe" blasting through the loudspeakers, and I hear all of the drunk girls and guys shouting at the top of their lungs, and then I look around and I go, "She's cute." How am I gonna what am I gonna do now? Like, how do we go about this now? Yeah, either I gotta walk over and start dancing to a song that I don't like and I don't know how to dance to, and like somehow attract her with my dance moves, or I gotta like yell over this blaring music and give myself a sore throat. Add on top of that, I don't even like to drink most of the time, right? I go weeks to months at a time without consuming a drop of alcohol. So it's like, what do we do? We don't want to be in these bars and clubs. Well, people tell you, oh, you got to social circle is the answer, right? You got to get a bunch of friends and then you got to try to fuck all of those friends. Or they tell you your coworkers, right? You got to invite your coworkers out to happy hour and then try to fuck your coworkers. And it's like, bro, this is another dead end here. Because firstly, I'm not the type of guy that has a big social circle or a big friend group, anyways. Most of my friends are international, anyways, right? It's like when I get together with my friends, it's usually I'm flying to a different country or they're flying to a different country or we're meeting up in a different country. So when I'm back home, I don't really speak to the people I used to hang out with because usually they're out at bars and nightclubs and shit. And I don't want to go there, right? So when it comes to like a social circle, the first problem is that you need to have a bunch of friends to make this work. But the second is that in the back of your mind, you know that the reason why you're making these friends is to get laid. And that's like, come on, right? People talk about cold approach is shady. I mean, I'd argue what's shady is is these roundabout methods to get to your actual desired outcome, right? So and then on top of that, right, you take it a step further. Let's say you do have the friend group, but now the problem is you've got to make the friend get togethers awkward now because you're trying to bang the friends at the get togethers. And it's like some of them are just trying to genuinely be friends. Maybe they already have spouses and stuff. And you're like, oh, but the only reason I made friends with you guys is so I could do social circle game. And it's like, so now you're trying to bang your friends or even worse, your coworkers, the people that have to sit next to you every day. You're trying to seduce them on Tuesday happy hour, yeah, on Monday mimosas with the crew. You're trying to seduce your coworkers. It's just not a good look. All right. So that's why the objective here, remember, is we're trying to normalize flirting publicly. So it's like when you look at your other options, it's either you're swiping on an app, and we we know how well that works, or you're meeting people through these interesting mediums like church, oh boy, or or uh, or holiday events, or coworker get-togethers, or friendship outings, and it's like, you know, it's one thing if you are with these people and then you meet other people, other strangers while out and about. But again, you need a skill set to be able to do that. Oftentimes, people are closed off when they're with their friends or their coworkers because nobody knows how to socialize with strangers. Eh? So, look, and then the last thing I wrote to normalize this is who makes the rules anyways, right? So it's like I've been talking about this concept of socially acceptable this whole time, but at the end of the day, who makes the rules, right? Oftentimes we're just following along. We're just following suit with what most people do. And you can live your life that way. I'm not here to tell you you shouldn't, to be quite honest. But if you like, I guess the thing to remember, the underlying theme here throughout all of this is if you watch any of my infields and you think to yourself, I wish I could do that. This is essentially like the mind behind the person who is doing that. Yeah, is recognizing that nobody can force you to do anything. Nobody can tell you that this is how things have to be, right? Unless it's punishable by law. And in most countries, yeah, maybe not Syria. I don't know what Iraq's looking like, but in most countries, walking over to a person to compliment them and try to engage with them romantically and see if it's mutual, that's not illegal. That's not against the rules. And in fact, especially in 25, it's encouraged behavior. People want this to happen because they're tired of relying on apps and algorithms nowadays. All right. And the last thing I wrote here, why you shouldn't wait. Why you shouldn't wait to build the skill set, why you shouldn't wait to take control of your own dating life rather than leaving it up to an algorithm, why you shouldn't wait is, well, let's weigh the best. Excuse me. You see, I'm still getting over this cold. So let's weigh the best case scenario against the worst case scenario. The best case scenario, you find your wife or find your multiple wives, whatever you're after. I don't care. I can just help you get there. That's easy. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you get rejected a few times, is you develop yourself into a better person, is you become more capable, you become less fuckwithable, yeah, you become less moved off center, you become more resilient. Like worst case scenario, you try to build this skill set of approach and you don't get your date, but you get a bunch of life lessons. And it's hard to even say that's worst case scenario because I only work with guys that I know this works for. The only way that you don't get a date through cold approach is you have shit technique or you're just an odd guy that needs to prioritize other things before dating. That's the only two things. Yeah. So either you're a guy who's already fuckable, already dateable, but you just have very poor odd technique. Yeah, maybe too aggressive, maybe too tepid. All stuff that I help my clients work through. Or you are simply a guy who's just not dateable. And so you can put in a million reps, but you would never get a result because nobody would want to date you unless you went to like a third world country and you tried to hit on the gypsies. Yeah, because as long as you're dateable, and remember, dateable is very easy. Most guys are here. Most guys are dateable. Yeah, dateable is just regular guy, got something about you, not 700 pounds overweight, can look people in the eyes and speak to them, and you're going somewhere in life. Not that you're there yet, not that you've arrived, not that you're gym maxed, not that your looks maxed, money maxed. Nah, you just have something about you. You're going somewhere. Yeah, you've got some sense of direction, and you know how to socialize, basic social skills. That's it. Yeah. So that's the best worst case scenario. The next thing to consider is that we're not getting any younger. So if you've watched my content, you're watching my content, you're watching adjacent content and you're envious or you feel something growing within you and you're kind of upset that you've not taken action up until this point. You're upset that some 25-year-old kid gets to fly around the world and change lives, go on dates, teach other guys how to go on dates, not respond to a boss anymore. And you're like, why the fuck does this guy get to do it? Right. If you're feeling any of these feelings, recognize you're not getting any younger. And I'm not here to bash on you or whoever's watching this, one viewer anyways, but just recognize that the time it's always going to go forward. Yeah, it's a problem, it's a blessing, depends on how you look at it. The point is that you can't change it, right? So we're always moving forward and we're not getting any younger. So if you've, let's say you're 35, if you've, let's say you're 45, if you've spent 45 years minus, let's say 12 years, maybe you hit puberty at 12, 45 minus 12 years, if you spent that amount of time seeing women that you liked, not knowing how to do anything about that feeling that you had inside of you, and then you came across somehow, some way, the algorithm funneled you content such as this, showing you a way out of that reality, then recognize that it's now or fucking never. Yeah, it's like we're not getting any younger. And the longer you delay this process, the more suffering you're choosing to purchase, right? The more suffering you're purchasing. That's a great way to put it. Wow. You're either purchasing coaching, freedom, or you're purchasing suffering. Yeah. And the best part is the suffering comes for free. You don't have to pay anything for that. You just have to do nothing. And the way out of that reality, right? And when I say that, people might not think I resonate with it, but like I know what that means, right? You're going to sleep with a pillow between your legs every night, lonely. You could probably hear your roommate or whoever lives next door fucking their girlfriend or their wife on a nightly basis, and you can hear this all the sounds that they make. You see all your friends and your relatives on Instagram and on Facebook posting photos of their significant others. Oh my God, happy girlfriend day. You go to work and you see the fling that's going on between Susie, the secretary, and Barry, the boss. And they got something going on, and they go out for happy hour cocktails all the time, and they show up together in his BMW. And you show up to the family barbecue, and your uncle, who's twice your age, somehow is married to just the hottest girl ever. And you're looking around and you're seeing examples of what you want, but then you close the door and you're still lonely, and people and your family, and they look at you and they go, wow. Let's say your name is who we always pick on, Jeremy. Let's say your name is Jeremy, right? They go, wow, Jeremy, you've got a good degree, you've got a good job, a good corporate job, good boy, you've got a nice car, you got a nice watch, good sense of style, Jeremy, you've got a good group of friends. You must have a good, like, you must be doing all right with the ladies, right? And you feel the need to like lie about it. You feel the need to go, yeah, I'm doing all right, or yeah, it's going okay. Like, this is what I mean. There's a way out of that reality. That's what I was living too. I was living that up until the point where I was 23, when I decided to just make a change. None of this will matter in 100 years time. You and I will certainly be dead, unless you follow Brian Johnson. If you guys know who I am, the guy who transfuses his son's blood, the vampire guy, right? The guy who is trying to like reverse aging. Unless this guy comes out with a breakthrough, then in 100 years we will be dead, certainly. So it's like, what are we waiting for? Yeah, there's a solution to the problems that you're living through, the loneliness that you're experiencing every night. And the solution's never going to be easier and more attainable, because the more I grow, the more clients I get, the higher my prices go, and then the fewer availability, or yeah, the less availability I'll have. So it's like, do you think guys like Ian aren't glad they got in when they did? Right? Especially now you're going to see London series rolling out. He probably didn't even know just how much value he was purchasing for that cheap price tag that he got it for. And my prices have since gone up since Belgrade. But I know he's just looking back at that money transfer that he sent over, and he's going, "Wow, I got this for that? Are you kidding me?" Right? Now the guys, not even to brag on it too much, just go click over to the client transformation series and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, we'll never get any younger than we are today, and it's like, you're good enough today. Yeah, my clients, my target audience, they're guys who are already dateable. What are we waiting for? Yeah, why are we letting fear, society, judgment, why are we letting this stop us? You don't have to. It's just a decision. Yeah, it literally is just a decision. So yeah, that's what I had to share. Look, I know this I know the stream was quite all over the place. For some context, I've been sick for the last 5 days. I had a flu and a mild fever. So I'm still quite dizzy and disoriented and stuff, but I was feeling good enough to do a live stream, and I tried to write out some notes to keep my thoughts in order, but I recognize this was pretty all over the place. But yeah, so all I wanted to do on this stream was explain how we've been lied to. Explain how people, firstly, let's just start from the top. The lie about how if you want to walk over to a girl publicly, you have to all of a sudden become like some sort of PUA persona. False. Look at me. Do I look like a fucking PUA to you? Look, I got George Washington hair. I got a nose ring on. I got a backwards block hat. I buy a hat from every country I go to. I rock a backwards hat when I'm lazy to do my hair. I wear a boring ass black t-shirt. I got duplicates of it. It's like I'm the furthest from PUA style. And it's funny, I've met a lot of people in this space who've tried to like usher me into a more PUA style, and I think it's fucking hilarious. You're like, Ephraim, I think if you just dressed a little more sophisticated, yada yada yada. I'm like, bro, I'm getting dates. I wear cargo pants. I don't care. I don't care what you have to say about my style, mate. I'm sure my style will mature as I mature, but I'm 25. I'm gonna rock my 25-year-old swag because I like it. And that's the beauty of it though, is you don't have to, like it's great. I never told Ian Isaac, should we go Isaac? We'll just keep rocking with Isaac, even though no, we'll go Ian now. Yeah, let's he made his channel now. So we'll say Ian. Isaac was the alias, but now that he's got a channel, it's great because I never once told Ian or Sam out in LA. I never once told them what to wear. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. Yeah. So again, top down, you don't need to become a certain persona to learn how to flirt with girls publicly. Cold approach is simply a vessel. It's a medium to it's a structure to learn how to deliver your value to the girl that you like. Learn how to introduce yourself to the girl. Simple as that. It just so happens that it's often looped in with its origin, which was 2008, I think, London day game model guys in peacoats and trench coats and dress shoes and shit. Throw that shit out the window. I'm 25. I get just as good of results as anybody in the fucking industry, and this is how I dress. Yeah, so this is proof you don't need to throw that shit out. You don't need to become a certain person or dress a certain way. They're all lying to you. All right. And then again, one step back from that is we were lied to because people told us that flirting publicly was bad or shameful or sinful or blah, 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 blah. And probably just like me, right? Or you, probably similar to me. The older I get, the more I'm realizing like, it's crazy because like every person is going through life for the first time. So like when you really take a step back and think about it, it's like, like all these people around me with all these opinions that I care about, but he's 33 for the first time ever, and I'm 25 for the first time ever. And it's like, we almost think as though everybody else has everything sorted and all their opinions are valid. And then you remember, like, wait a second, they're just a product of their upbringing and a couple of years older than me. And they're interested in different things. And I have a different perspective than them. And really it's, you get to make your own decisions. Yeah. So, all right, we've been rambling for about an hour now. So to wrap up, if you would like me to personally teach you how to do what you see in my videos and what you see my clients do in my videos, then that's what I do for a living. All right. So I don't have virtual courses. I don't have theory that I try to share with you. I don't have a paywall that I put my infields behind because I'm not a coward. I want you to see what I can do for free. And then if you want me to teach you how to do it, that's when you pay me. All right. And to put another barrier there, I don't work with everybody and I'm very selective with who I work with. So if you schedule an application call, I will give you my undivided attention for that 45-minute time slot. I will ask you a lot of questions, and I will also let you ask me a lot of questions to see if we'd be a good fit for coaching, to see if we even like each other and if we get on well. Because if we don't even like each other, then it's like, how am I going to coach you through this delicate area of life, right? So if you schedule a call using the first link in the description, we're going to spend 45 minutes seeing if we get along, and then also seeing if, seeing if you're somebody that I believe can actually build this skill set the way that I teach it. And I have plenty of questions that I typically ask, and I typically change them depending on who I'm speaking to and how they are. But yeah, if you want me to teach you this skill set, yeah, click that link in the description. You can schedule a call. We'll see if you're a good fit for coaching. Because yeah, I love saying it's so life changing, but it doesn't really matter what I say. Just go watch the client transformation series. Listen to somebody else tell you how life changing it is. Yeah, that's a lot better. That holds more weight, doesn't it? So, anyways, boys, I appreciate you. Onwards and fucking upwards. Enjoy your nights. talk to you soon. Oh, yeah, by the way, it's Monday, so I hope we're off to a good start. Yeah, good start to the week. Let's go.